All right, I'm going to call to order the Town of Chincoteague Council meeting for December. If we could all please stand for the invocation by Councilman Taylor.
Your time, Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for all that you do for us, Lord, and thank you. I want you to put a special hedge of protection, Lord, around these three council people getting ready to be sworn in for another 4 years, Lord. Not only are they willing to serve this town, Lord, but they're also willing to serve you, Lord. And that does mean so much to this town, Lord, that we do. Even like out front, Lord, we have symbols of your love out in the front yard, Lord. We, just thank you for a town that we know that it does upset some people, Lord, but also, Lord, we know that if we didn't put it out there, we'd have more townspeople upset with us if we didn't do it. And Lord, we praise you for a town that still seeks your will. Lord, we pray for these young men that are here tonight, Lord, that are in law enforcement, Lord, and some of them just starting out, Lord. We pray for a hedge of protection around them, Lord, because only they know what dangers they go into, even on our own. Lord, we just think everything is hunky-dory here, Lord, but Lord, we know that there's things that the devil puts in every community, Lord, and we have it here too, Lord, and we pray for their hedge of protection for them. Lord, we pray for every employee that we have, Lord, and just keep them safe, Lord, in everything they do. And Lord, we just pray that they feel our appreciation, Lord, that we know that they're doing their hard work, Lord, for the town, Lord. And Lord, we know they must be doing a good job because, Lord, the people that come here and flock here to have their vacations, Lord. And Lord, we just praise you and thank you for everything you do for us. Lord, we pray that during this coming year, Lord, that we will seek your will in everything that we do. Lord, just go with us and guide us and direct us. For we ask these things in Jesus' precious name. For our sake, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Hopefully we'll get through this in a good order. We don't have to consider remote because everybody's here. So first thing on the agenda, we've got 3 council members that have to be sworn in, and we're lucky enough to have Mr. Cooper come in and do it. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening to council and all the public that's present this evening. It's my pleasure to be here to administer the oath to our newly elected town council members. So at this time, I'd ask for the 3 of you to come forward, please. Kenneth J. Savage, Christopher D. Bott, and Ellen W. Richardson.
Should we step aside so the seal's behind the pictures?
I'd also, prior to administration, I'd also like to Town Manager Talbot for inviting me this evening to do this, and also to Chief Fisher for providing my personal security detail. I feel very honored.
We're very glad to have you, sir.
All right, gentlemen and Ms. Richardson, if you'll each raise your right hand, would you all like to do this individually or collectively? Either way?
Either way, we've been not.
Okay, all right. All right, let me ask each of you to raise your right hands, please. Do you, Kenneth J. Savage, Ellen W. Richardson, Christopher Dewar Bott, each solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia, that you will faithfully and impartially discharge all duties incumbent of you as members of the Town of Chincoteague Town Council for a term beginning January 1st, 2023 and ending December 31st, 2024, according to the best of your abilities, so help you God. Congratulations. All right, my last order of business is to present to each of you your certificates of election, which read as follows. Commonwealth of Virginia, to all to whom these presents shall come greeting. This is to certify that at a meeting of the Electoral Board of Accomack County held on November 14, 2022, On an examination of the official records deposited in the office of the clerk of the circuit court, it was ascertained and determined that at the election held on November 8th, 2022, Kenneth J. Savage, Ellen W. Richardson, and Christopher Duabat were duly elected as members of the Town Council of Chincoteague for a term commencing January 1st, 2023, and ending December 31st, 2024. Witness, not right? Huh? 26? 27? Okay. 4-year term, so we have to blame the Secretary of Elections. Witness the following official signature and seal of the board at Accomack, Virginia, this 29th day of November, 2022. And in all this erroneous... No, I'll get it back up here too. I'll just have to talk to the electoral board tomorrow, and we'll change this, and also I'll do your oath over again. Dinner?
You are.
And this, and as you said, this is possibly my last opportunity to do this, since my plans are to retire next December, but it is.
Told me that 4 years
I told you that. Yeah. But again, I think I got 8-year term. All right, so I'll have all of that corrected and get all of that back to you. Thank you all.
Would you, sir, would you stand up here with us so we
Sure.
Oh, I'll be rich.
Once you get in the front,
Get on the
you
end.
get in the middle.
Get on the end so it goes this way.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Good luck.
You just need dates on
January 1st to 27th.
Good, thank you.
Oh, well, all right. Well, congratulations to you three. Appreciate y'all stepping up. Next on the agenda is public comment. Ms. Shotwell, you're it tonight.
I'm it,
Front and center.
front and center. Mayor and council, just wanted to thank you all for helping with the Christmas parade on Saturday night. You probably know that we sweated a few bullets there on Saturday watching the weather forecast, but it never changed. We knew in the office it was going to happen. No hurricanes. So Brian wasn't giving us any bad omens or anything. So thank the police department, the town, fire company, whoever was involved with helping us put all those parts in place to make the parade happen. We appreciate it. I think everybody had a good time and looked like they did. We saw the mayor several times go through.
Next year, we're going forward.
So thank you.
Thank you. Just part of being on Chincoteague is the Christmas parade, so had to do it as much as we can. All right, I'll entertain a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Staff reports, general government, Mr. Talbot.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, an update on the drinking water. As you know, we do have some legislation pending to get us some new wells. In the meantime, the GAC plant, or the filtration plant that NASA has built for us, is getting ready to undergo its first media change. There are 2 trains there that process all the drinking water for the town, and they are tested regularly. It's my understanding from WALPS officials that one train has started to show a little increase in PFAS in the interim sample points, not at the effluent point. The effluent point, which comes out to our drinking water, is still the same. It's non-detect, but they sample at several stages in the interim in the filter process, and the intermediate stages are starting to see an increase. So they will be changing the filter media in train 1, and then once that's back online, they'll be changing that in train 2. So we'll have fresh, brand new filter media and filtration plant, and NASA continues to do a good job with that. Reporting on the Chincoteague Center in November, we had 2 commercial events, 1 community service event, 2 nonprofit events. For December, we've booked 2 commercial events, 2 community events, and 1 nonprofit event. And we continue to take calls every single day inquiring about use of the center or renting the center. Transient and meals tax, or excise taxes, the data you see in the table are for November collections, but they were for October activity. This is the first month that we've seen collections for TOT under the new regulations proffered by the state. Starting October 1st, all lodging intermediaries, some of them of which would be Expedia, Vrbo, HomeAway, that sort of thing, are responsible for remitting 100% of the TOT for lodgings that they book, not just their booking fee, which relieves the lodging's owner from having to do that if they did not book the room. Just to give you, for instance, if you look at the TOT for FY23, which would be this year, for the month of October, we took in $114,000. One intermediary, and that would be Expedia, was responsible for nearly half of that. So that gives you an idea of how, of the scale of what these intermediaries are doing on the island. The change in law has been that the intermediary is now responsible for paying or remitting 100% of the rooms tax that they, for the bookings that they book. The problem is that, as we've discussed before, is that the intermediaries are not following the letter of the law, and that they are not telling us who they're collecting that tax for. I've spoken with some other localities, including the city of Virginia Beach, which is experiencing the same thing we are. We've gotten from, just for instance, from Expedia, this month we received our normal transient occupancy tax form, 1 page, filled out with 1 lump sum amount, and no list of properties from whom they collected, and of course not the portions of that 52,000 that were divided amongst those properties. City of Virginia Beach tells me they're experiencing the same thing. So intermediaries are thumbing their nose at the law that was just passed, which specifically requires them to do that. That is something we've talked to our legislative team about, and we're hoping we can get some movement on that. I also got some ideas from the City of Virginia Beach on how we can make up that information in the meantime, in the interim, and we'll continue those talks. You can see for collections for November, we continue to do well with transient occupancy and meals, which is still amazing to me that we're still collecting that level of meals. It looks more and more like last year, however, was a bubble the entire year. Every month last year seemed to be a bubble, and that we're going back to some pre-COVID numbers right now with just a straight line increase. Looking at our financial report for the month, we continue to do well in all areas and are about where we should be at this time. Again, our revenues are abnormally high due to the second tranche of ARPA funds that did arrive after the beginning of the first fiscal year, which did skew our numbers a little, and we will account for that in the first amendment. Our legislative priorities. On November 10th, I attended a meeting concerning legislative priorities that's set up by the AMPDC. Senator Lewis and Delegate Bloxham attend these meetings, as well as the county administrators from Accomack and Northampton counties. And the meeting purpose is for us to relate to our legislative team our priorities for the year. We have 7 priorities. This year we identified those as water source development, which is the replacement of our wells. We've discussed that many times. Wastewater was the second priority, redevelopment of the town's historic business district and Maddox Boulevard, and developing some sewage capacity along those routes. Public safety, redesign of the intersection at grade at the drawbridge, as well as raising the road bed on the causeway was our third priority. Beach relocation is our fourth priority. As you know, we're trying to relocate the beach to the north so that we don't have to rebuild, or the Park Service and Fish and Wildlife does not have to rebuild parking lots every year. And this is becoming ever more important because we are losing land mass in the south where there may come a time when we won't be able to reconstruct those parking lots because there's not enough land mass. Number 5 was transient occupancy taxes, what we just discussed here. The problems with the new law is the way it's written. Number 6 was marijuana sales, and related to our legislators that the town of Chincoteague is still very interested in restricting the retail sale of marijuana, and they will be looking into that in this term. And then seventh and final priority was local elections, which we just had, and again, maybe giving us the option to have those elections in May as we used to, instead of requiring us to have those in November. And that was, there's 7 priorities for the legislative priorities meeting that we had in November. Tax collections, we're in the middle, as you know, of collecting property and personal property taxes, or real estate and personal property taxes. It's been extremely busy. It seems that not everyone got the message that deadline for real estate and personal property taxes is now December 31st. And council was kind enough to lengthen that deadline at their last meeting, so that it's not to push everything up to December 5th, but we still have folks that were coming in today thinking they were right up against the deadline. So we're doubling our efforts trying to get that word out, but it is very brisk in the office with tax collections right now. Building and zoning. Mark continues to be very busy. Last month, or the month of November, total cost of building construction was $1.5 million, and we collected about $3,600 in permit fees. And he still is very busy doing inspections and getting permits out, as well as reviewing plans and everything for the new projects that you all are aware of that are coming back. And with that, I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Go ahead, Mr. Bott.
Yes, sir.
That TOT tax, that seems to me to be a very kind of frightening little situation on our part. The inability to link the tax to the taxpayer. The burden of paying those taxes with our code, doesn't that fall on the homeowner or the person? How does our code work?
According to our code, yes, it does. If you read the new state code, it makes the intermediary responsible for the rooms that the intermediary books.
So it's taken, and the state code trumps our code.
It does, and it appears to me that the intent of the legislature was to shift responsibility from the actual lodgings owner to the intermediary that actually booked the room. And I believe it actually states that. I'm not looking at it right now, but I believe it actually states that. One of the things that we are probably going to institute, and the folks, the auditor at Virginia Beach helped me with, is they require all lodging owners to report their total gross, regardless of who booked it, each month. They also have a much bigger staff than we do, and there's some other things they do that would be prohibited for us. But they also, one of the things they also do is employ a third-party service that helps them with identifying taxpayers and taxes associated with them. Something we'll look into. It's always there's always a chance that those sort of websites and services have a kind of like Municode have a scalable fee in which they charge large cities a much higher rate than they charge smaller localities like us. And if that's the case, it may be something we could afford to do, but we certainly can't afford to have the staff and the resources that a larger city like Virginia Beach has. But we would continue to work on this. I think it would be very easy for us to have each lodging owner to report their gross regardless of who booked it. So at least we have an idea of the total collections we should be receiving for that month, and to see how much we are not collecting. And if there's a big discrepancy there, we may want to go farther and get that in a more granular level and see why we're not and who's not.
Go ahead, Denise.
Is the homeowner itself like for vacation rental homes, they're responsible for getting their business license.
Correct.
So if you went that route, it's a matter of maybe at that time saying this is what we need.
We do, and what we do right now with short-term rentals is, because this started last year with short-term rentals. This year, the new thing this year is hotels. But short-term rentals, what we've been doing for the previous year is most of these services like Vrbo have a what's called an owner's dashboard, in which the owner can log into their system and they can look up and say on their dashboard, and it says right there that Vrbo remitted this amount of taxes based on these gross sales to the town of Chincoteague, the county of Accomack, the state of Virginia, on your behalf.
Okay.
And what we ask them to do is print that page and submit it to us with their report so that we know that Vrbo submitted this much taxes on behalf of that property. But we can't even do that with Expedia.
Okay.
Right now, we do have 5 intermediaries that we're working with. Expedia, Vrbo, HomeAway, Evolution, there's another one, I believe.
Any further questions for Mr. Talbot? Thank you, Mike.
Yes.
Next up is Chief Fisher.
Thanks, sir. On November the 1st, we had dispatcher Lewis completed an online active attack emergency communications course. From October 31st to November the 4th, PFC Stevens attended in service at the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel that we have to do every other year, all of us. November the 6th and 7th, we assisted with security and traffic control down at the harbor, parking and so forth for the Antares rocket launch that went over one day. So wasn't too bad, I guess. November the 16th, we held our annual fall senior luncheon over at the Chincoteague Volunteer Fire Company. I'd like to thank the fire company and Mary Esther for all they do to help us out there. Don Seafood also for providing the meal. Very well attended. I believe we had about 150, a little over 150 people. Thank you all for coming too, that showed up. It was very well received, and we love doing it. November the 23rd, we started our deer depot on the island. So far, we have harvested 11 deer and 1 fox. So far, we're also trying to control the fox population a little bit also with that. So that's going along pretty good. And as far as I know, every one of them have gone to somebody that wanted the meat. So we're trying to make sure that we don't waste any if we can. Also on the 26th, I assisted with the tree lighting ceremony and also assisted Accomack Sheriff's Office with their annual Donnie Wing Tyndall Memorial toy drive that they have. And they have a car up here in front of Misty statue. And to finish up, I want to introduce our 3 newest officers and dispatcher to the council. First, we have one gentleman closest to me, Travis Marshall. We hired Travis as a part-time dispatcher. He's got a full-time job over at the Comfort Suites. Most of you know Travis is Ronnie Marshall and Pam's son. Ronnie worked with a long-time town public works employee also. Next to him is Colin Renus. Colin comes to us originally, well, he lives in Salisbury now, but Colin's father is the first sergeant at the Virginia State Police Barracks in Melbourne, Jeff Renus. And Colin also has a tie to Chincoteague. His grandmother is Rita Bolter. She was,
Rita Jones?
yes,
Walter Craig?
yes, yep, that's his grandmother. Ralph Jones and Bernice, they were his great-grandparents.
Okay.
So Colin's got a tie, and of course, Todd Matthews over on the end. Todd, Dad's here, Aaron. He's not here for this, though, he said. But Todd is the son of Aaron and Rhonda, so he's got a, he's grew up on Chincoteague. And Todd and Colin both start the basic police academy on January 30th. They'll go from January till I think, June 14th, I think it is, something like that. So the middle of June. Yes. So, thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
all very much.
Thank you.
Be safe.
Yep.
Will do.
Where are you going?
Yeah, what are
Where are you going?
And that's pretty much all I have, if anybody has
All
any
right, thank you.
questions.
I've just from personal experience, I've had so much experience with Todd. Coached him in baseball. He's a great kid. And was it his grandfather served on the police force?
Rupert, yes, that would be his
Great
great-grandfather.
great grandfather. So he's got a lot of history.
Yes.
Maybe he'll follow in his footsteps. Awesome. All right, thank you. Next up, Brian, I believe.
Excuse me, ma'am. Good evening. Mr. Talbert will be bringing up the presentation for this evening. All right, so as you can see, these numbers just slightly different than the ones you received in your report since the 29th of November is when that cut off. So again, 13 less than last year. So that's a pretty substantial drop from what we've been seeing in October, over 20 and 21.
You made up for it today.
Well, I was going to lead into that later, but yeah, December's not looking good, or depending how you want to look at it. So as you can see, again, November was under what the numbers were, and that should say November instead of October. I apologize. EMS, we're always training. Come by on any given day at some point, and crews will be out there doing something. And you can see there, those are just some basic skills. And those are the ones that I have them concentrate on the most, believe it or not. 3 a.m. doing drug calculations, you're so intent, you're so up on that. But 3 a.m. with a basic broken bone, that's just something that you kind of put in there as yeah, I can do that. But when it comes down to it, those fine motor skills, you need to practice them. So that's what my focus stays, is those fine motor skills on those basic skills. You can see we got involved in some of the Christmas parade fun. Some of the employees got their family members together, as part of a morale building. And it also put some members out there into the public in case something would have happened. They would have been there faster than maybe what the ambulance could have got to them there at some point. So logistically, it worked out well for both morale and for public safety. State EMS Advisory Board, as you can see in your report, there was a lot going on over the last couple months, but certainly at the November meeting, EMS is an essential service, and I have some talking points on that I will send out to you all in the next few days. But that is kind of the number one topic pushing forward in the General Assembly this year, with no monetary hardship to any of the localities within Virginia. Most localities, almost all localities, 95 counties and 38 cities, I believe it is, have EMS service in some form or fashion, or might even have duplicate services. So again, the service is out there. What's missing is the monetary component from higher up the chain, such as the federal government. EMS is not listed as an essential service outside of, I believe, 13 states within the United States. And by doing so, the police department, Robbie, for example, fire department, there are grant monies available to them. Even FEMA on the fire side, there's a lot of grant money available, but there are no grants available at the EMS level of any amount. So that was part of the reason why the board has been working so diligently to get this going. And the bill has been written. We're actually working on patrons now of the bill, and hopefully that will pass the General Assembly this year. The next one was moving the Virginia Office EMS to its own department. This had a lot of discussion. The majority of the board members, I believe, were for this. However, in my opinion, we're working on an essential service to get money from higher up. That money needs to come to the end user. which is here at the town of Chincoteague, here in Accomack County, Virginia Beach, Northampton County, wherever, but it needs to come to the end user. And my personal opinion, and in speaking with Ms. Gowdy, Executive Director of VML today, her opinion as well, that should Office EMS then be migrated to its own department, it's going to cost money. I mean, we're going to need letterhead. We're going to use just simple things starting out, but is that money then from an essential service going to make it to the end user? I don't believe so. So again, that's something that's not in this year's General Assembly, but is being talked about. So we all know how the cogs of government work. We need to get on top of issues so that we can stay informed and also kind of direct the narrative. And the other recommendation is actually to move the advisory board to a policy board. And there's a lot of pros and cons for this. One of the bigger cons, once you move it to a policy board, it becomes very political. You lose a lot of the autonomy for information and collective thinking and so forth, and then it becomes more of a political. So each time that we were to have a change in government, then of course the policy board is going to change and it's going to go with that way of thinking. Whereas now the advisory board stays, again, more autonomous, but also has more input from public thinking and comment as opposed to what a policy board would. So in the meeting, we did approve the state plan for 2023 to 2025. That's been worked on ever since I got on the board. And then all of our committees now are taking up the 12 VAC 531, which are the state EMS regulations. And hopefully we'll have a good draft of that back to the entire board by May, and then that can be pushed up through the Department of Health for their approval. Emergency management. Again, COVID monitoring, but there's a lot more going on than COVID. There's flu, there's RSV, there's all that good stuff. The local emergency management planning grant has been awarded, so Mr. Talbert's going to be finalizing that paperwork. So again, that was a $15,000 grant, which $7,500 from the state and then $7,500 from the town. And we're going to redo our EOC here, which benefits not only the EOC, but benefits our room tonight. Makes it a little more aesthetically pleasing. We're also looking at the Rocket Lab launch for this Friday, December 9th, and that window is roughly 5:30 to 8:30. It's not like the Antares where they have to hit a target, so they have a pretty broad window that they could launch the vehicle. And then that will go out for a few days as necessary, pending problems and or weather, and that window remains the same throughout the period. So our planning team met and discussed a few things. Thankfully, our parade went off as scheduled and not December the 9th at 6 o'clock. So it's all worked out here. And then again, we're also starting to talk about Antares, which right now is at or near March 7th. So we know hurricane season's over because it says so, November 30th. But that doesn't mean a storm can't come upon us. And nor'easters are really common this time of year and as we move forward. So again, I'll say it now and I'll say it again, prepare. We all need to prepare. We wait to the last minute and then, snowstorm's coming, let's all rush to the grocery store and buy bread and milk. Well, having water a gallon per person per day is a lot more important. And having those non-perishable foods. Okay, and yeah, I put a little dib in for sardines, and I'm sure there's people in the room that don't like them. I love them. They're great for breakfast. Using flashlights, we have different lanterns that are battery powered now, along with flashlights. Try to go away from the candles. Candles are very dangerous. They could get knocked over. A pet could knock them over. A child, even yourself, stumbling around in the half dark. So try to get away from the candles. Go electric if possible. Make sure you have your medicine. If you know that there's going to be a potential storm coming, check your medicine. Maybe you'll have to call your doctor to get some early stuff. Also, your pet supplies. We all love our pets, but I think we kind of forget that planning process when a storm's coming. Make sure we have what the pet needs, their medicine, their food. Make sure you have water for them as well. So again, now is the time to prepare. And of course, our insurance and emergency paperwork. So Chincoteague and COVID, we're still talking about it. So our 7-day positivity rate has increased to 11.5%. If you look at last December, which is the first white column there, you'll see it was 7.6%. This December, we're at 11.5%. So we've went up a little bit from where we were this time last December, but if you look back into 2020, we were at 10.8%. So we're kind of in line with where we were there at this time. Here locally on Chincoteague, since November, when we reported out, we're up 23 cases to a total for the entire COVID process of 661. So 23 cases over 30 days, 31 days roughly. Not terrible. So in summary, and again, I'll point out here in a minute when we get down here, but Region 3, I was able to pull that report this afternoon, and we are really at 33.5% of the new variant. So EMS, we're at pre-COVID response numbers for November. Today, as Councilwoman Bowden pointed out a second ago, got a little bit hairy and busy. Continue to be weather aware. Nor'easters, tides, snow, they're all possible. Another plug I'll put out, these cold mornings that we're having with a lot of frost. If you're traveling the causeway, right there around sunup, that is the worst possible time for frost to hit those bridges. And we've had numerous accidents over the years. So again, if you're running the causeway just around sunup or just after, that is when you could see icing on those bridges. So please be careful, be mindful of that. The new COVID wave is beginning. Again, we're starting with an uptick, which is to be expected because we're moving into the winter season. Most people like to be indoors in winter. There is something to be said for being outdoors all the time. But anyway, so the initial variants that we were dealing with is the BA.5. Now we're moving to the BQ.1. And like I said earlier, for the week ending December 3rd, here in Region 3, which is Maryland, Delaware, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Virginia, we're BQ.1.1 is 33.5%. So this new variant is really catching on. It's kind of eluding a lot of the vaccines and the natural immunity that we've developed after getting COVID, because a lot of us had the BA.5 last. So again, it is what it is. Cold and flu too, along with their boo RSV. It's coming. Kids all around the Commonwealth right now are getting very sick with RSV. We're seeing it a lot on the ambulance. Hospitals are certainly seeing it a lot, with a lot of admissions for RSV. And you want to be careful, especially around the super young, because we as adults can carry that RSV. We might just have a little cold, might not even show any symptoms, but we can pass that along to the younger population. So just be mindful of that. Certainly now is not the time to be up in folks' faces, but certainly we have the Christmas holiday coming upon us. We're going to be around a lot of people, but children mindful when you do that. I'll entertain any questions.
Anybody?
I have one.
Denise, go ahead.
So the launch on the 9th,
Mm-hmm.
so they've got this window in the report here between 5:30 and 9:35.
Yeah, it's back to 5:30 and 8:30 now is what the last one.
So no definitive set time, just between, it could happen any time between there.
They would like to do it right at 5:30, but they have a window, so if there's some minor problems, a boat is in the launch area, if that is a problem for them, they have time to clean it up, as opposed to with the Antares, you have 5 minutes and 5 minutes only. And that will go out through the launch period. That time won't change.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now we're going to have the pleasure of our first report from our new Public Works Administrator.
Well, let me just say it's been a good first 4 weeks here, and I'll just summarize a little bit what we've been doing, but I can tell you in 3 or 4 weeks it's already very apparent that you've got some very good workers back there. A lot of initiative and a lot of knowledge, and they've impressed me. So, but here's a few things that we've gotten done over the last couple of weeks. They did a water main extension for Key West Cottages, and if you go to the the next slide there, the next down, that's the temporary patch that we've put in where we did that. That's cold patch that's in place right now. I'd like to get that patched with asphalt, but I'm not sure that we can make that happen for any kind of reasonable dollar amount right now. We may be better off to kind of babysit it through the winter and then incorporate it in a larger paving project next year so that we don't pay for a mobilization for such a small patch. And then they also had some leaking water services that they repaired. If you move on down there, as you I'm sure are aware, we had some vandalism at Memorial Park at the bathroom, and I probably went overboard on the pictures here, but I just wanted to be sure I got you kind of before and after of what was going on. Those pictures there are like halfway through the cleaning and repainting and everything, and I just wanted to include those so that you could see the difference. But they did a really good job. They got all that restored in about 3 days, I believe. And then a big part of what we did this month was installing all the Christmas lights over and over and over again.
You got one out on Willow Street, the star light down past Rockford Street. It's
Okay.
not lit.
All right.
Seen that this morning.
I'll get it taken care of tomorrow. And then, of course, continued maintenance on all the town-owned vehicles. Edwin sure does a good job of filling in there as town mechanic as well. Seems to know his stuff. We backfilled this sidewalk over at Brianna's Park, and this was actually we were having a little safety talk in the morning back there in the shop, and this was actually brought to my attention by one of the operators, and he was concerned that there was a pretty severe drop-off off the backside of that sidewalk, and he suggested we get it filled in. So, like I say, it was brought to my attention by one of the workers, so we backfilled it with dirt and then capped it off with some mulch. Things that we're planning on getting done in September, hoping to begin the drainage improvements down on South Main Street, down by the harbor. Continue, of course, with the maintenance of the vehicles, and hope to also begin some plans for the renovations in this room, and we've got some concrete to install for chess tables over Brianna's Park. But that's about it. Any questions?
Anybody? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll meet tomorrow night. 6. You're gonna love Shinty.
You're gonna be over here enough. All right. Well, next up is committee reports, I believe, if I can get to it. And first on the list for committee reports is me with the harbor. And we had a real quick meeting. It was to discuss the new boat dock that had been installed and to also talk about the new ramp that's going in over at Memorial Park, and that comes up later in the meeting. So I'll entertain any questions about the harbor committee. If none, we'll move on to budget and personnel.
Yeah, we met to discuss changes to the personnel manual, with regard to the town sick policy. We ended up tabling that discussion and sent it back to Mike, and he's doing a little more research on that. We're going to address that at a later time. The other item on our agenda was the LPRs, and we did that in the workshop meetings. That's all I have to report.
Thank you. Next up is ordinance committee. Councilman Savage.
Yeah, we met on November 10th, and during that meeting, we talked about considering the modification of bamboo ordinance. and the committee agreed unanimously to adopt the model ordinance as written, add the term appropriate measures to section 66-58A, and to remove section 66-59 in its entirety. And that was basically all we discussed on that.
No hogs? No hogs. No hogs.
Well,
Is that gonna come up as an agenda item later, or do you wanna take action on it tonight?
No, it'll come up later.
Gotcha. All right, next up is the adoption of the minutes of our November 7th and November 17th meetings. Were there any corrections or adjustments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion.
second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next up is something that we just can't wait till it happens, and that's the budget calendar. Mr. Tolbert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The budget calendar is not dissimilar from last year's calendar. And again, I'll entertain any other methods that you all would like to see to get the budget completed. We do have, it is a lot to review, it is a lot of detail. I try to split it up in smaller bites so it's easily digested. But basically, we will take up at the council workshop sessions, budget and personnel sessions. For the next few months, each of those meetings, we will take up a different portion of the budget. I like to, the trolley grant, we generally do first because the grant is due in the month of January and we need to get that done. Other than that, I like to do revenues first, because I find if you do revenues first, then you have to keep your expenses and then revenues. If you do expenses first, you're trying to pump your revenues to meet expenses. So that's just my philosophy for doing it. You'll see at each meeting, we take off a little bite of different things. One meeting we'll spend just on review of salaries and benefits, which should fill an entire meeting easily. General government one night. We'll do harbor, border, and public works another night. In any event, we have an extra meeting to finalize and complete the budget. And then on April 7th, the plan is, on April 20th, April 7th, we plan to have the completed budget advertised in the newspaper and have the presentation for the budget sort of like I did last year on April 20th, and as well as a public hearing that night, and then it has to sit for a few weeks, and then May 1st we will be set up to do a formal approval and appropriation on this schedule. Again, I'll entertain any other methods you all would like to see in accomplishing the budget, but we should, this is just my scheme, but we do need, like I said, to get down in the weeds at certain times in reviewing this.
Any questions or alterations from that schedule? Then I will entertain a motion to approve said schedule.
So moved.
Second. Motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, Mike, we'll see you a lot next year.
Yes.
Next up is for the boat ramp over at Memorial Park. We did advertise it out, and we got 2 bids. As you can see, the 2 bids that came in are drastically different. And the one that has been doing work for us is a lot lower than the other bid. So we need it. I guess we need to have the discussion on the construction of the boat ramp. If not, I'll just entertain a motion to approve that Fisher Marine Construction be awarded the contract. So moved.
I have
go
a
ahead.
question,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. So I'm looking at this, correct me if I'm wrong, we decide on it tonight. You're gonna give them a notice to start within 10 days
Yes, ma'am.
to start,
It'll be a lot sooner than that.
Okay. and 15 days commence work, 120 days to complete.
That's correct.
Okay.
And speaking with the potential or the apparent low bidder here, I guess he's not an apparent low bidder anymore because we've qualified him, but in speaking with the low bidder here, they expect to finish in advance of 120 days.
Okay.
I believe 57 was the number he gave me. probably not, I mean, that's a no weather,
Right.
no other,
Yeah.
no other type of delay, and that always happens on the job. My point is there that they should finish easily in that 120-day window,
Okay.
which puts us at May 1st in time for the new season, voting season.
Okay.
Anyone else? Discussion?
We do have a motion on the floor to proceed.
You need a second?
I do need a
Second.
second. I have a motion and a second that we award the contract for a new Memorial Park boat ramp to Fisher Marine. All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. All right. What do we got here? All right. Moving on to the last thing on the agenda, is council comments. Mr. Savage?
Been a pretty quick meeting so far, I guess. But, yeah, it was good to see the three new officers, here this evening, young officers, and, really appreciate their concern in the community and willing to serve, and, just, appreciate, Chief Fisher and what he's done, in obtaining these individuals, and just continue that. Appreciate our new Public Works Director, and keep it going. We got as he said, and as witness, we've got a fine group of workers here, and just keep up the good work, all handled by our town manager, Talbert. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Brother Gene?
It's easy to say congratulations to the three that were laid, but I do want to thank you all for being willing to serve. Sammy was trying to let you off easy with a light sentence, but I was thinking about Chris, it's a 4-year. Jay thought it was going to be an every year deal, but it is. 4 years is a commitment, and I appreciate you all willing to step up, and like I say, Chincoteague is a different place. That's a good different.
And you heard the interim pastor Sunday when he said that the parade was so beautiful, and he said it was very nice of the town of Chincoteague to have that parade for him.
Yeah, but it's a different place. It's a good, very much a good different.
Yeah, and he said that spoke well of the people here, how kind everybody was. So, and Jay's right, and I think, who else was it? You said it, how people, we are, I mean, it depends on how you project yourself to a person as well as what you receive back. So, and I think that's the majority of the Chincoteague people. They're very caring and considerate. So.
Good. Anything else, Gene? Brother Billy?
Congrats to everybody got sworn in tonight. Congrats to everybody that was recognized. Congrats to the Chamber for a very nice parade. It was nice that it was warm for once. And that's Merry Christmas to everybody. I guess this will be the last time we'll all be together. Merry Christmas to everybody.
Vice Mayor Bott?
Just a Merry Christmas to everybody. That's all I got.
All right. Denise?
Yeah, echoing on those same sentiments, you know, picking a job like that or getting into a job like that these days is one of the hardest things in the world. And I'm glad to see the young people that want to step up and do that, and appreciate you bringing them in so they could see our faces, we could see them. We know them, but it's always nice to, you know, be face to face sometimes. We live in a great town. You're right, and it's this time of year when you're thinking about counting your blessings. We're very blessed to be here and live here, and I do wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and hope Santa Claus brings you everything you want. And Evelyn, Arthur, and I are still waiting on our participation trophy.
We'll work on that.
You know,
Maybe in next year's.
The
most appearances at a parade, yeah. We were desperately trying for that 4th, and we came around. We were going to go down Poplar Street that time, and I said, Arthur, it's awful dark down there.
Yeah.
And
It's all cars going. We're like,
yeah,
oh, I missed
but I want to tell you, the parade, when you ride through it, and I'm sure you haven't had the opportunity to ride through it, when you see all those people on the side of the streets with that small town atmosphere and fun and watching the kids and everything like that, it makes you feel so good and you feel so safe here with everything. It's a great feeling. I was not in the Christmas spirit at all, but when I got done that night, I was in the spirit. So thank you for Chamber for all their hard work in that too. So Merry Christmas, everybody.
All right, thank you, Denise. Ms. Allen?
Well, I've already said what I had to say, I think.
All right.
But really, truly, I mean, it is a great place to live. And again, I said, it's how you treat people and how they treat you, return it back to you. Because a lot of times, when you're in the grocery store and you'll say, is that all you have is one thing? Oh, I'll wait. And I said, no, go ahead. Are you sure? Well, I started saying, if I wasn't sure, I wouldn't have said it, but I'm almost smart. And I thought, but those things people from other places are not used to. And they find it very, very heartwarming when they come here and see it. So, but I wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a healthy one. And Lord willing, next year it'll be better. But we don't need to take things for granted. We still have to work at it. And it's all in the good Lord's hands. So,
Yep.
that's all, Mr. Mayor.
All righty, thank y'all. And as far as me, I'd just let Evelyn know how much fun we had going through 3 times. That was great. Everybody was, we actually, on our 3rd trip through, they started handing us candy.
Yeah.
Well, we wonder where Buddy was on trips 2 and 3.
He got a little nervous.
shiver.
He got a little nervous one time around. And if we hadn't taken him home, we probably could have made the 4th one. But he was a little bit hot headed when I put that little hat on him, so he wasn't happy. But he did good.
I always see it from the porch there at the library, but we get to see that little section of it. But I told the staff that this morning, I said it looked like to me it was one of the best parades that we've had in a long, long time. It looked like everyone was just so happy, and so just it was just a different atmosphere almost than
It was
some.
nice.
Maybe it was weather related.
Maybe it was.
Instead of,
Yeah.
but it was good. And I'll just repeat everything that the council said about wishing everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, happy and healthy New Year. And as always, even though it hadn't worked out this season, roll Tide. I'm going to do it. I got to do it. So next up, I will entertain a motion for the council convene a closed meeting pursuant to section 2.2-3711A5 Code of Virginia for the discussion and review of potential business opportunities.
So move.
Motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.